I'm from Syria, from Kobani. If we can't save our children, our family, my wife, we leave Kobani because we want to make a new life for our family. We need somebody, we need country save us. We need European save us.
We are not animal, we are not criminal. We have right to cross this border.
My mother and father and young sister is in Damascus, still in Damascus. Because we can't go all of us. This is mine.
That's all you have now?
That's all I have, yeah. We are looking for a chance to live better there. And we hope to be a better person. Like that, we want to be something, not like just living.
We want people coming in to our country based on merit and based on the fact that they are going to love our country and they respect our people in our country. For decades, open borders have allowed drugs and gangs to pour into our most vulnerable communities. Most tragically, they have caused the loss of many innocent lives.
We are a nation of immigrants, and we should all be proud of it. But we're also a nation of laws. It is wrong.
That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before.
Families who enter our country the right way and play by the rules watch others flout the rules.
Thousands of families will be ripped apart.
Meanwhile, what's happening to families at the border is horrific. This is a moral and humanitarian crisis.
The Department of Homeland Security says there's been more than a 200% spike in illegal border crossings over the past year, and a 37% jump from last month to this month.
For the first time, an American president is taking a very firm line. Good. That's what's needed. Whole populations are on the move. Invasions, frankly, have to be stopped.
Throughout recent decades, immigration has been an immensely discussed, depicted, and controversial topic. However, prior to the 21st century and recent news that we've been exposed to, immigration was continuously a huge and influential factor. During the Progressive Era, Americans had similar viewpoints to the ones that currently exist in our modern society. In the Progressive Era, Americans at the time were often fearful towards things they found strange or different from the culture they were used to. This fear extended to the new wave of immigrants from the late 1800s through the first 2 decades of the 1900s. The new immigrants, mostly from Southern and Eastern Europe, brought an influx of culture to the United States. Unlike the previous wave of immigrants who assimilated well to the American way of life, immigrants from countries like Italy, Poland, and Russia brought with them different cultures and religions that made it increasingly difficult to integrate into American society. Since the majority of Americans blatantly displayed their dislike for these immigrants, the progressives at the time did little to improve immigrant lives. For no matter how harsh, American regulations held immigrants back from their own success. The new opportunities present in America were far better than the conditions in their native country. So this is a museum, dedicated to the new opportunities on the horizon for immigrants, containing artifacts that tell their history.
Hula hula, better known as hello. Hola. Ni hao.
Where did you come up with this?
My mind is on crack. Okay, anyways. Okay, yeah. Guten Tag. Ni hao. Xin chao. Hula hula. Hola. Better known as hello. Immigrants. Why are they here? Who are they? Well, I mean, they're everywhere. I got one right here. Right there. Her probably, but she's white, so we don't know. Definitely him. Culture has been a major component of who we are and what our society is today. Throughout the years, we have progressed, both in technology, but politically and socially. New cultures have been introduced as well, and define our daily lives. So that begs the question, where is your home?
Hello and welcome to this exhibit. One of the artifacts I have here is a horse I mentioned. The other one I have is a permanent residence card or green card. The green card represents new opportunities on the horizon during the progressivism era because although it was introduced in 1940, it shows that when immigrating to the United States, immigrants had new opportunities and legal means of improving their life. And the horse I mentioned demonstrates new opportunities, things like that, in regards to assimilation. As an example, German culture assimilated into American culture and became more popular, and the impact and influence assimilation had on immigration during the progressive era.
Hola hola Coca-Cola! Me llamo Andrew, and I am an immigrant to the United States. Our first artifact is a lettuce. You see, I consider this lettuce head an artifact of the Progressive Era, because during the Progressive Era, many immigrants came into the United States, and some of those immigrants were Mexican-American immigrants. Mexican Americans immigrated into southern states, and in these southern states, Mexican Americans started their own plantations, and some of the crops they grew were lettuce. And to this day, people still do eat lettuce. Our next artifact I'd like to introduce is more of a physical festivity, and it's something you call salsa. With the immigration of Hispanics into the United States, salsa had introduced a new hobby for societies in the southern land. This is prevalent in the overarching theme of Mexican festivities and their culture blending into American culture. Throughout the early 1920s and on, salsa became immensely popular, which led it to spread throughout the entire country and all over the world.
Ni hao everyone, good morning, and welcome to my museum exhibit. So, immigration. Really big back then, even big and prevalent now. It's kind of an unfortunate truth that immigrants had to immigrate over to America because they were trying to avoid oppression and violence. Actually, in Russia, Russian Jewish people were forced to move their homes due to the May settlement of 1882. They had to leave their homes and they were ordered to live in the Pale settlement. And in these Pale settlement were these things called pogroms, which basically made it hard for these people to survive. It was just a big massacre, and it's kind of a Holocaust in itself. The Holocaust before the Holocaust that we know that was happening in World War II. My artifact is a man from the army in Russia. This is his army hat, and he's holding a bat, and as you can tell, he's pulling a young child by its hair, a Russian Jewish child. And this is kind of a picture from 1906 that depicted what a pogrom consisted of, kind of giving you an insight of what it was. Many were killed. People were burnt to the ground. Places were burnt to the ground. A lot of places didn't have any financial relief and was just ruined and could not be rebuilt. it was a super, super hard time for these people, and so they came over to America looking for new opportunity and growth. Hula hula, and welcome to my next artifact. Right here we have two little young ladies, one a child, one probably her mother, and they are actually praying on the New York Williamsburg Bridge on New Year's Day. They are Russian immigrants, Russian Jewish immigrants. Jewish people have been migrating to America ever since really the beginning of America's colonization. They started coming around like 1654. But in the early 19th century, many, over 200,000 were fleeing to America because of persecution of being a Jewish person in Russia. Many of these people would flee during the nighttime in gangs, and they would bribe the officials on the border of the Russian border and all these things, and killing them and all this kind of stuff just to come to America for new opportunity. They sailed onto a boat and went to Western Europe or Eastern Europe, and then from there they would come over to America looking for new opportunity and just a better life than being persecuted against in Russia. Russia was really, really bad during this time. A lot of them went over to New York City and remained in New York City. So yeah, that is my artifact. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is my first artifact. This is a picture taken of a bunch of immigrants coming through Ellis Island after a long journey. Ellis Island was such an important factor in the Progressive Era, especially like for immigration, because Ellis Island brought over 12 million people throughout the Progressive Era, and the second that people like from all over the world, Germans, like people from Ireland, people from Italy, people from all around the world, they came through this port, and when they got here, they knew that this was like where our opportunities started. Like, this is where my life begins, like the better from the bad back in my country and back where I was from. So Ellis Island was, A1. Ellis Island was just a very important part of the whole immigration process during the Progressive Era, because it did bring over so many people, and that's how so many people got here, and so many people were able to start their new lives and their new opportunities and their new jobs and have a better life for their family and themselves. Although the trip over to Ellis Island and to America was not pleasant, it was loud and crazy, as many immigrants have stated. Just the moment of relief the second the boat stops and the passengers get off is just huge. Big enough to make the horrible ride here worth that. Yeah, boy. As you can see, here's a family of 7 who are out picking berries. So this was a lot of immigrants' life when they came over to America. It was every single person in the family contributing. Sometimes it would be the whole family like picking berries to eat, or sometimes it would be the children and the mom working in like factories, and those weren't the best conditions, no, but they were better than what they were going through and dealing with when they were back in their home country. Jobs weren't the greatest. They were hard sometimes, and a lot of the jobs that these people had, because a lot of the people coming over from places like Italy were like farmers and like basically unskilled workers just looking to do anything. And so coming over, they did not have the best jobs, the best high quality jobs, and the conditions weren't that great, but they were better than what they had been and just the opportunity to rise higher than what they were, all what coming to America was about.
Hello. I hope it hasn't been a rough experience here in the Lally Nation-National Museum. This next outdoor exhibit is a new, fresh, and limited addition to the museum. This next exhibit focuses on China and Chinese immigration during the Progressive Era. In the mid-1800s, thousands of Chinese immigrants came to California to either work in the goldfields or to later build the railroad. Hence, this is one of the premises as to why this exhibit is outdoors. The Transcontinental Railroad signifies Chinese presence within the American economy and the economy system, and job opportunities they took after their arrival. Of more significance, this antique train artifact conveys their endless labor on the railroad, representing the hard work immigrants, like the Chinese, took to make a better life for themselves. During the 1800s, Chinese were mostly found in rural areas. In 1870, only 24% of California's Chinese resided in the San Francisco Bay Area. By 1870, popular sentiment in the U.S. quickly turned against Chinese immigrants, leading Congress to ban further immigration with the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act. In this intellectual museum, this is conveyed through yet another antique item, a stop sign. After the Exclusion Act, the Chinese American community went through a series of changes. Many ex-miners and railroad workers migrated to cities looking for jobs. The Exclusion Act formed a major challenge. Chinese could find immigrants like themselves who spoke the same language, came from the same culture, and ate the same food. Secret societies known as tongs provided support, friendship, and sometimes different activities to partake in. This is the second premise as to why this exhibit is outside, because there is always American hesitation that prohibited Chinese immigrants to get in. However, being outside allowed Chinese immigrants during the Progressive Era to consolidate and create new opportunities for themselves, unlike the restrictions they had back home.
Now you're probably wondering, do immigrants even exist? We're about to take a look at a real one.
Lastly, what do you define as home?
To me, home is where my family is. And in my particular case, I have two homes. I have a home in Texas and I have a home in Germany. And so I consider myself lucky because I have family in both places.